All right, thank you. It's a privilege to address this august body. I was asked to help moderate a discussion on the questions you have on postdoc positions at the lab. And we just had a very wonderful introduction, an excellent introduction to those from the postdoc perspective. So thank you, Samantha and Rick. What we have now is a panel of distinguished research scientists from the laboratory who are going to know it from the other side, kind of know what the lab is trying to get out of the postdocs and positions and what we are looking for and what we think about those positions, how we think about them. So in the vein of continuing stealing movie titles, this is your chance to ask questions, okay? I've prepared very few slides because I really want to get to what the questions that you have are that we can answer them. And of course, you know, if you don't get the answer, ask the questions you want right now, we're around for the rest of the day. Please approach us. We're very happy to talk about these things. So there's a great book out there called A PhD is Not Enough. If you haven't read it, you should read it. It was actually written by someone from Sandia. But the reality is that, you know, a lot of times you think about grad school and getting that PhD is the pinnacle, right? That's your goal. And there's so much more after that. It's kind of a, you know, a false summit in some sense. So in some sense, grad school is kind of like, you know, as a graduate student, you're an egg. You're fairly well protected, right? You got that shell on you. And when you graduate, you become, you know, a new PhD. But at this point, you're still a fledgling, right? You're not ready to go out and really start your soaring research career. So there's lots of things that you don't know yet. You know a lot about the technical part of your job, but you don't necessarily know about all the soft skills that you need. How to network, how to write a grant proposal, how to review papers, all these little things that come in that you're expected to know as a research scientist that you really don't get taught in grad school. So I'm sure a lot of you will read PhD comics. And this was touched on a little bit earlier, that you know, actually being a postdoc isn't so bad. You don't have to write grants, you don't have to worry about graduating, you don't have to teach. You get to spend all your time to do the thing that you're supposed to do, find your next job. Now that's sort of true. Most postdoc positions are only about 2 years long. So if you think about that, you need to start thinking probably about, you know, a year in, what am I doing next? What do I have to prepare to get that next job? So they are a temporary position, they're a career development position that's designed to help you grow, but you are actively trying to steer that towards where you think you want to end up. And the laboratories work hard at trying to help you through that process. We realize that this is a short-term position and that you have to get your next position. And so all of the labs have programs instituted to try and make sure that you do the things during your postdoctoral time that set you up for your next position. Now, there's primarily two different kinds of postdocs at the lab. There's sort of the standard postdoc. And really, this is a career development position. That's how we view it. Your number one job is to develop and grow into being a more mature scientist. Most of these are associated with specific projects. The funding actually comes from some project that has to be done. The research that you're doing is generally driven by the project deliverables. They've already committed to, you know, we're going to study this particular phenomenon and have these results by a certain date. But often when you go into that position, there's some negotiable aspects of that. And when we bring people in, we usually like to bring in people who add something to the whole research environment and can contribute new ideas. One of the key things is all the postdocs have mentors. And mentorship is really, really important at this point in your career. It's the mentors who help you figure out who the right people to talk to is, what the funding sources are, how to come up with good research ideas, how to navigate the alphabet soup of acronyms that we like to use so much at the laboratories. And so everyone has a mentor, and they're there to not only guide you in your technical research, but also help develop the skills that you will need to be a productive researcher down the road. The positions generally last 1 to 3 years. We tend to go for 3-year positions. A 1-year postdoc is kind of too short to get anything done. You can't really get a publication unless you're really, really, really productive. You usually can't do, you know, a full suite of research and get a paper out on that research in 1 year. Oop, I went backwards. As mentioned before, the salaries are very attractive. It's not like an academic postdoc position. Generally speaking, you know, at Livermore, our standard postdocs, it's actually, the salary is about 75% of what a new staff member would get. So that's pretty good. The positions are generally posted throughout the year. There's not necessarily a season for postdoc positions, although we do try to time things. There is a season for academic graduation, and we're aware of that. So we know it's much more likely that we can try and hire somebody, say, in May. And so we'll, assuming the funding comes at the right time, we do have sort of surges in looking for people. The application for most of these is very much like a regular job application. Usually all three labs, well, all the labs actually, but the three that are represented here, all have career job websites that you can go to that list all the positions that are available. They usually have either a tab on there or a specific way to search and just pull up all the postdoctoral positions. And then the application process is you fill in a web form, you attach your CV, you provide them with contacts so they can get letters of recommendation. Now that's the official way that you go about doing it, of course. The real way you will find out, or you should already know this, is through networking. It's through people who you know. So you talk to the practicum coordinator, or the practicum coordinators at the various labs. You talk to your practicum supervisor, other people you met. You find out what opportunities are there. You tell them, hey, I'm going to be looking for something in this time frame. And even if it's not in the area that they work in, very often they know the right people to talk to. They know who to call up or who to ask, or can get you in contact with somebody. So that's the formal application process, and then there's the actual legwork you should do, because it's not right, but the reality is that if a colleague of mine who I highly respect comes to me and says, here's this great SSGF who's graduating, is looking for a postdoc, I'm going to be very interested in that, because it's coming with authority from a colleague I respect. The decision process for these types of positions, usually there's the responsible manager or the PI is the one who's actually hiring. So it's not like there's just a central hiring office that just hires people. It's usually the person who's in charge of the project or the group leader for that project. There might be a phone interview. We usually do a lot of phone screening, but then we'll have people out for on-site interviews. And the on-site interview usually consists of an hour-long seminar. So it's very much like any other kind of PhD interview process. There's an hour-long seminar and then at least a day worth of meeting with lots of people and asking lots of questions and answering lots of questions, and your brain turns to like Jell-O by the end of that day. But it's a very interesting time to go through that and interview with the labs. Now, there is a different type of fellowship at the labs for postdoctoral positions, and these are the named fellowships. So these are sort of premier things that you get this and you can associate yourself with that name. So this is like the Lawrence Fellowship, the Feynman, or Truman, thank you. So what's the other one? And then there's more than just those three. There are these lab-wide ones, which are across all disciplines, but then there's also some specific ones that are out there. So like at Livermore, we have the Fernbach for scientific computing. Sandia has the von Neumann. What's different about these, what's special about these, is that the recipients of these tend to be much more mature PhDs. Frequently, you're actually competing with people who've already had a postdoc, or if you're coming out and you were just a real whiz kid in grad school. But you get the opportunity. They basically give you the money, and you get to define your own research program. That's a rare thing. It's a very valuable thing. So it's great if you can get one of these. One of the important things about that, if you want to go for one of these, is it's important to make those connections ahead of time and identify a mentor or someone at the laboratory who would be the natural person you would work with. Obviously, if you want to work in a particular area, you should make sure that that's an area that laboratory cares about. And the labs do have different emphases. Again, these positions are about 1 to 3 years. These pay slightly higher than most postdoctoral positions. I think they're actually roughly the same across all the labs because we all track each other and, that whole competition thing. The deadlines vary. So sometimes these positions are open when they come open, they'll offer them. Some of them are actually, there's a season for it. So for instance, the Lawrence, which is the one I'm familiar with the most, the application process is in the fall. They're due by like November 1st. And there's a process that they go through of screening all of those. There's a big committee that looks at all these things. They select some people to bring out, about 8 people usually, do on-site interviews that last 2 days with a big seminar and all that. So it's best to go, each of the labs will have websites, and it's very easy to find named fellowship at Sandia, named fellowship at Los Alamos. And so you can get the specific information about that from those. Again, the application is pretty much like before, with the big difference that this reads much more like a research proposal. So a key part of this is going to be a multi-page research statement, which is basically, and why is that? Well, they're giving you the money to do whatever you want to do. So you've got to convince them that whatever you want to do is valuable. So it's very important to spend a lot of time in that research proposal. Work with your thesis advisor, work with anyone else, someone at the laboratory to help tailor it properly so that it's compelling to the interests of the lab. Another good thing to have here is if you've got a really good publication record. So it's important to get those publications out. Your advisor isn't joking about that. And the decision process, so usually there's a committee that does this. They select a final pool of finalists, and then they have these on-site seminars and interviews. Thank you very much. Can we thank the panel? They did a great job.